Good morning, everyone. Today, I welcome Mr. Praveen Chaturvedi, founder and CEO of Moonlight Pictures and Prajya. Today, he will share his thoughts on promoting Indian culture heritage through films under our lecture series, India-Ireland Friendship Lecture Series. Before that, a brief introduction of our speaker. Mr. Praveen Chaturvedi has been a marine officer with the title of captain. Being driven by his passion, he turned to filmmaking. With deep roots in Indian culture and under the guidance of his guru, he dwelled into a multitude of subjects, exploring the core of Bharat's philosophy, culture, and sciences. His exposure to the world of filmmaking during his naval tenure sparked an enduring passion, promoting him to pursue formal training at the School of Cinematic Studies at University of Southern California and later UCLA School of Theatre, Film and Television. Subsequently, he worked with some of the top studios of Hollywood with the best professionals in the world of cinema. Deeply ingrained in Indian cultural roots, Mr. Praveen returned to India in 2012 with the intent of fusing his passion for Bharat's vibrant culture with the realm of cinema. He co-founded a film production company with two young passionate filmmaking aspirants, Mr. Kshitij and Mr. Abhishek. Their work, brimming with pro-Bharatiyata elements, marked a decade-long journey of corporate and commercial filmmaking. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the team launched Pratyam, focusing solely on creating exclusive Indic content, earning global appreciation. Today at Pratyam, Mr. Praveen and his team are fervently devoted to highlighting and preserving the richness of Indian culture through the medium of cinema. Collaborating with various government departments, many Indic warriors and researchers, Pratyam is leading an Indic revolution, showcasing the richness of Indian culture through inspirational films and digital content. Before we invite Mr. Praveen for his talk, I would request His Excellency, the Ambassador of India, Shri Akhilesh Mishra, to kindly give his introductory remarks. Sir.
Namaskar. Very warm greetings to all friends who are joining this program from Dublin, Ireland. It is a great privilege for us to welcome someone like Praveen Chaturvedi ji, who is a true pioneer in his own field. I had great privilege of meeting him just before I was preparing for my transfer to Ireland. So I have been following his work with great interest. And last year, when we launched India-Ireland Friendship Lecture Series, then it had a very specific context. India's celebration of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and also it marked 100 years of Ireland's independence. So we wanted a low-cost platform to bring people of India and people of Ireland on one platform so that they share their success stories, they learn from each other, and establish new contacts, much broader people-to-people connection. We are very happy that the current state of relationship between India and Ireland is primarily focused on people-to-people exchanges. We have robust trade and economic and investment ties. We have very vibrant Indian community, maybe around 80,000 or so. And also Indian community now represents the largest non-European foreign community in Ireland. Indian students are increasingly opting for Ireland as a center of a high quality, affordable, enriching education. And India has become the #1 source of international students in Irish universities. So when I look at the next 25 years, I envision a much broader, much wider people-to-people connect. And not only the traditional areas like technology and investment and innovation and education, but also culture being a very important part of our connect. And even now, if I look at the most iconic symbol of India-Ireland partnership, then I have to go back to Yeats and Tagore, their friendship. So for me, the field of culture, particularly the creative industries, they can be big source of mutual partnership between India and Ireland. And the field of literature or poetry or art or creative technology driven areas like animation and gaming and film. Ireland and India both have quite significant influence. Ireland also, like being a small country, but it has a much larger than life influence, whether it's a film awards or literary awards or art scene or art design. So there's a lot for us to share and learn from each other. And as far as the Indian context is concerned, we are celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and preparing for Amrit Kal next 25 years. And in Honorable Prime Minister Modi's vision of new Naya Bharat, new India, culture has a central place. And that is why I really appreciate the role that grassroots level activists and thinkers and thought leaders like Praveen Chaturvedi ji are playing in reviving India's self-pride. For me, the work that you are doing, Praveen ji, is very significant because it is connecting the youth with the India's heritage. And India is privileged to have one of the most ancient, living, throbbing cultural heritage. And I must say that just antiquity itself is not the greatest merit. In fact, Sanskrit, there is a saying, Purana vityeva na sadhu sarvam, na chapi na kavyam navatyavadyam. Just because something is old does not become worthy. It's a wise people who evaluate and then choose. The ignorant follow blindly. So in India's ancient cultural heritage, particularly the intangible heritage of thoughts, of ideas, of philosophy, of spirituality, of traditional knowledge systems, that is valuable not only because it's more than 5,000 or 8,000 years old, but it is valuable to us today because of its timelessness, its inherent universality. And it has solutions for contemporary challenges because of its inherently universal and timeless approach. A non-segmented, non-prescriptive, all-inclusiveness that Indian knowledge systems represent. As we prepare for our future, it's extremely important to remain rooted in our own soil. There is again a saying, a beautiful saying in Sanskrit, that Moolam Yatnato Rakshaniyam, Chinne Mule Naiva Vriksho Nashakha. For us to enjoy the fruits, we must first water, nurture, nourish the roots. Because if the roots are destroyed, then neither there will be trees, nor branches, nor fruits, nor flowers. So we must collectively endeavor to strengthen, nurture our roots. And that is why I feel your program, your initiative is extremely important. And we all should support and work together so that the next generation is not born with sense of inferiority complex, which has been instilled in our mindset. We must inculcate self-pride in our heritage, and our heritage is diverse. Our heritage is complex. Our heritage inherently is full of compassion and kindness and treating everyone else as oneself. So that has the wisdom which can help us overcome today's challenges. Everyone's challenges, we have a solution inherent there. With these words, once again, I really appreciate Praveen ji for sparing time to join us and share your thoughts, your inspiring story with audience who are connected with our Friendship Lecture Series. I know how busy you are, so I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Ambassador Akhilesh Mishra ji. I'm really honored to be part of this India-Ireland Friendship Lecture Series. And I would like to start this with a very interesting anecdote of my life. My wife, she's a Indian classical singer, Dr. Revati Sakalkar, and she's gifted with a great voice, and she's very well known globally. And I remember a few years back, there was a team from Ireland who were musicians and filmmakers, and who had come to India, and they were making a film on the Indian classical music, and also what are the similarities between our music, the Irish and the Indian. And I was helping my wife to perform for this film, and also helping the filmmakers to shoot it here in India. So they had picked up my wife as a vocalist, and Ustad Zakir Hussain was picked up as a tabla maestro. So there were very few musicians here. And as my wife was singing a traditional tune for this film, those wonderful, talented Irish musicians said, wait, you know what? We know this tune very well, because this tune is very, very popular in Ireland, and we sing it and we hum it. And they started, humming and playing it on the flute. So we said, wow, this is how, our cultures across the globe have been so eternally connected with each other. And as it is always said, that the culture, the art, and the music has got no boundaries. So that was a very, very inspirational experience for all of us. And this is what we strongly feel, that we are tied up together with, an eternal bond of unity. And that's what we always have believed in India, the beautiful concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And that's how, our philosophy have nurtured over millenniums now. So it's a great honor to be part of this. I'm going to speak about, promoting Indian cultural heritage through films. Now, as you know, that there are various genres of films, like there is various genres of poetry, of writing. Like in Bharat, you say, there is a kavi jo veer ras ka kavi hai, ya koi shringar ras ka hai. Aise there are filmmakers, similarly, who are, who have a different perspective, a different bent of mind. They're filmmakers. They have been in India who have made some very good films, which were like drama films. They were filmmakers who made, great romantic films. They were filmmakers which made, action, thrillers. But I identified myself as a nationalist filmmaker. It was, I think, in me right from the beginning. And right from early days when I used to write poetry and I used to do photography, I always was looking for something which could be more complete in itself, in which I could express myself completely. And finally in Canada, I got introduced to this great medium of filmmaking, where I met my first guru, who was a great French-Canadian filmmaker, Michel Audi. And my journey in filmmaking started from Canada. And I started learning filmmaking right from scratch from him. And then I worked with him, I learned a lot from him. And then on his recommendation, I went to US to take a formal training in filmmaking from School of Cinematic Studies, University of Southern California, and subsequently in UCLA. And then I got a very good opportunity to work with the top filmmakers and top technicians in the world in various studios of Hollywood. But I think there was a strong calling from within which was calling me back to India, and which was, and I think it was I belong to a Guru Shishya Parampara. I think, it was the inspiration of my great Guru from within who was calling me back. And it was very clear in my mind that, I had to come back to India and I have to make films with which I have always related myself. The films essentially, which are based on Indian culture, Indian heritage, the Indian knowledge systems, the amazing Indian philosophies that we have, especially the philosophy which is closest to my heart, which is Advaita Vedanta Darshan, and the Indian sciences, and the India's contributions to the world, on which we are making now a two series film, in all the fields, whether it is mathematics or whether it is physics or whether it is astronomy or whether it is life sciences like yoga or whether it is healing sciences like Ayurveda or whether it is the philosophy, the great philosophies, so all the various fields in which India has majorly contributed to the world. I wanted to tell these stories not only to the world but also to inspire our youth, the new generation, who can come to know through these films what great civilization and what great country and what great culture and what great Rishi Parampara they belong to. So I always felt that among all the Rin, the debts that we have, I think, one of the greatest debt that we have is the Rishi Rin. And I thought, that if I make, these films which are based on the great sciences of the Rishis, of the great darshan, the philosophy of the Rishis, of the great work that they have done, I think I would be able to, get Urin, from the Rin of the Rishis. So that was the primarily thought, so from being a naval officer, making a transition and then, becoming a filmmaker has been quite a very interesting journey. I got a chance to go around the world and I've been, I really traveled a lot. And so it gave me an opportunity to live in many countries and closely observe their culture and their ethos and, to learn a lot about them. And even I've been to Ireland many times, and then living in Canada and then America. I think all these things, they helped me. I assimilated all this knowledge and experience, and that helped me a lot. To make some very, I would say, inspirational and meaningful and purposeful films. That we have made. So. It has been a very interesting journey, and as we all know that Indian culture is it's so amazing in itself. It is so universal, and this philosophy of universal brotherhood is something which is very unique to India, and the Indian knowledge systems and the Indian culture and the Indian sciences are such that anybody in the world can enhance their own life, the quality of their life, their they can be more happy, they can take care of their well-being, just by following anything from our culture and from our sciences. Anybody in any part of the world, if he practices yoga, for example, he would immediately find a lot of solace. It would, definitely benefit him. Or anybody in any part of the world, if he goes through the beautiful philosophies that we have, the Vedanta Darshan, as I said, he would be immediately benefited. Or if they read, the great works, of the great people who have gone abroad, like Swami Vivekanand ji, or Swami Ram Tirth, or who propounded the philosophy of Vedanta, or subsequently Paramahansa Yoganand, who took the light of the Kriya Yoga to the West, or Swami Chinmayanand or Prabhupada ji, they have all been cultural ambassadors of this country to the world, and I think they made this world so beautiful. by spreading, these fragments of these beautiful knowledge and the beautiful philosophies and the beautiful sciences all around the world. So taking inspiration from these great men, I thought, if in this era, which is now an era of films and media and all, if I'm able to do even just a very, very small part of proportion of what these great people have done through my films, I think I thought, I would be able to do a great justice, to my cause, and which is, to promote Indian cultural heritage through my cinema, through my film. So recently we were blessed to get this opportunity to make a film for the G20, and as you know that. At present, the India is the president, of the G20, and there's so many events taking place in India, and we were commissioned to make 4 films to show it to the G20 nations, out of which 2 already are made, and 2 is under production right now. The first film that we made was, it was, on the Indian knowledge traditions of the southern India. And it is called Eternal Civilization. The name of the film is Eternal Civilization. And it shows, the beauty, the culture, the great, marvelous architecture, the knowledge systems, the Guru Shish Paramparas, of especially the southern India, although it's there all over the country. But in the 4 films, we have divided India into 4 parts. So the first film was primarily dedicated to the southern part of the country. So I would like to show you just a small excerpt from that film, and then we will take this conversation further after that. So may I request Himaji to just play the film 1, The Eternal Civilization, please.
Most stories are about lost civilizations. This is about a living one. A recurring theme is clearly evident. In Indian astronomy, stars are named after seers. Madhav's mathematics flourished in a temple. Ramanujan's equations came from his Devi. It seems, for Indians, science was not contradictory to religion. For us, science was just a defined form of religion. And religion? was nothing but refined science. How did India's knowledge survive while other ancient civilizations disappeared? This unique longevity baffles me. Understanding it holds the key to ensuring that today's civilizational knowledge survives too. My curiosity takes me to Chinmaya Foundation in Kerala, where I meet Gauri Mahulikar, a Vedanta researcher and former head of the Department of Sanskrit at Mumbai University.
विद्या रक्षिता संस्कृति सर्वदा. विद्या जो है फॉर एवर इट प्रोटेक्ट्स द कल्चर. प्रकृति से संस्कृति बनाना, दिस इज द टास्क फॉर ह्यूमन बीइंग. एंड हाउ ही कैन अचीव इट? फ्रॉम विद्या. और ये जो विद्याएं हैं, अष्टादश विद्या स्थानानि कहते हैं, दे आर ऑल इन संस्कृत लैंग्वेज. सो 4 Vedas, 6 Vedangas, 4 Upangas and 4 Upavedas, it becomes 18. Ashtadasha Vidyaha Etaha. And therefore I say, Vina Sanskritam Naiva Sanskritihi. इंडिया को जानना है, इंडियन कल्चर जानना है, तो संस्कृत जाननी होगी.
To ensure perfect transmission of knowledge across millennia seems like an impossible task. For perspective, today's advanced digital technology can become extinct if a solar flare hits Earth today. Papers and manuscripts are not safe from calamities. The only thing which would survive the last mile would be a living knowledge retained in the hearts and minds. A rigorous oral method to preserve knowledge without errors. The idea is profound, but then why only Sanskrit? What's so special about it that Sanskrit succeeded in protecting the Indian knowledge system for such a long time?
When nobody even thought of, the words could have a science, we have an entire system of Vyakarana, Panini's grammar, where he, very distinctly states which varna, which consonant emerges from which part of the mouth cavity. It is the only language in the world which is like, as you write, so you spell, and as you spell, so do you write. The phoneme and the morpheme hardly differ. Okay? But in English, PUT put and BUT but. Why it is not but? I mean, there are hundreds of such examples. So Sanskrit is the only language, perhaps, which is very, very pure in that manner.
If I recite a Vedic mantra today, for all this is how it was recited 5,000 years back. So why I am saying this is the uniqueness of transmission.
And this transmission has happened by and large, through the Guru Shishya Parampara.
So basically the whole idea, as you rightly said, is moment you say oral, then obviously the medium of transmission is human beings. Therefore, there is this Guru who is mastered, and then there was a mechanism of creating a large number of, Sishyas. If you talk of this Stapatya, the architect who designs this temple, he will be a Guru, he will have a Sishya. A metalsmith who does some complex metal working will have a Guru, he will have a Sishya. So this is how we orchestrated the whole thing. It was not just about the Vedas. Every science, every engineering, every technology that we practiced, it was all through a system of Gurukula. A Guru could transmit it to 100 odd people. So the 100 odd people, out of that maybe some 20, 30 odd will actually become a Guru. So now one can imagine how this knowledge is going to go. It will be a divergent cone. That was how we were actually propagating it and passing it from generation to generation without any loss.
Thank you so much. So that was just an excerpt from the film Eternal Civilization, which we made, for the G20. And it was really appreciated by, the audience from around the world. Now, this is the power of cinema. In half an hour film, through all this beautiful imagery, the visual imagery that we have, extensively shot in the southern India, we were able to convey and communicate to the audience, the grandness, the greatness, the grandeur of, our civilization, and also about, the Indian knowledge system that we have, and also, the greatness of the Guru Shishya Parampara, that how this knowledge over generations and over millennia has been transferred, and it is still existing in the current time. So there are many ways of expressions people do, express in books and in journals and, through various ways. But I found, that the cinema, if it is made properly and powerfully, I think it is the most effective medium to communicate in the right way and to make it very convincing for the audience exactly whatever you want to tell through that particular film. And for me, it is very inspirational to make such films which talk about, our grandeur, our heritage, our culture, our knowledge systems, because, over the centuries, because of, these so many invaders and so many alien rulers that we had, somewhere we lost pride in our own culture and in our own knowledge traditions. And unfortunately, something which could have been made up for post-independence, but unfortunately, it was not done enough. So even post-independent India did not witness the re-establishment and rejuvenation of our own knowledge systems, and enlightening the youth and giving them pride in their own culture and in their own civilization and in their own ethos. So I saw and I felt that there was a huge gap, while the youth was getting swayed, by the narratives which were being floated by, forces around the world, and disorienting them. I thought, that there were nothing much and not enough was being done in this direction to tell the youth, the young generation, which are the future of tomorrow, about their own culture, about the greatness of their own civilization, about, these beautiful knowledge systems that we have. Like, for example, how many people, and I was surprised when I made a survey and I asked many youth, like, they were not aware of, the great temples like Brihadeshwar. And I thought, that it is not their fault. I think maybe, we failed, because maybe we did not do enough to enlighten them, to tell them, what exactly is our heritage. So through this film, for example, we beautifully explored, the entire South India. And it's a long film. I'm just showing you an excerpt, I'll share a link separately, which can be watched, when there is time, whenever you all have time. So there are two aspects, of films that I always have felt, that the first is, that the cinema is a reflection of the society. And there's also another aspect to it, the society is also the reflection of cinema. So I thought, that we should encourage filmmakers and we should consciously make more and more such powerful, invigorating films, which are very inspirational. And when, such films will be there, and when people will watch it, they will get inspired towards not only towards their own culture, but also they'll get inspired, to maybe, make such more films. And then only truly an Indic revolution can be triggered, a new kind of renaissance that we really want to happen now. So that's how, this beautiful journey of cinema has been for me, trying to consciously make, some very powerful films, some very awakening films, some very enlightening films, and some very, very inspirational films. And these films are on topics which are already there around us. But unfortunately, none of the mainstream cinema or not many filmmakers in the country, and I don't know the reason why, they probably did not bother to pick up, these topics to make films upon. And there's so many of them. Like I always say, and I firmly believe this, that India has got the greatest tradition of storytelling. I mean, I can proudly say, the tradition of storytelling is there everywhere in the world. But in India, it is in such vastness. It is everywhere. You pick up Upanishads, you have such inspirational stories, which can change the perception of your life. Or you take, Puranas, in Puran, you will find so many stories. Or you take Itihas. It's like you take these great, Itihas, the epics, Ramayana, so inspirational, or Mahabharata. And I always say, in my cinema classes, and I have read it so many times, and I always say, my God, I think Mahabharata, although it's a part of Itihas, but the way it is written, I think it is the greatest screenplay and the greatest story ever written in the history of mankind. How could somebody probably write, such a huge story with so many characters and doing justice to each and every character and so many plots and subplots and, these beautifully developed characters and so many anecdotes and so inspirational and so enlightening and so philosophical. And that you read it and you come out, learning so much about life from there. So this is the power of the tradition of storytelling that we had, and we always had. So I think, through the cinema and through the films that we made, I thought, that we should somewhere rejuvenate, this great tradition of storytelling, which always existed in our country, Bharat. And I think, through this, I think telling more and more stories through such powerful films I'm sure will create, a new generation of filmmakers in our country who will now look upon these topics to make films, rather than making films on the topics which have already been exploited so many times over and over again. Now, taking forward, and essentially this is the mission of Prachya. This is the mission we are trying to take forward. And we find ourselves committed to this mission of making very inspirational films and bringing about, a kind of, as we call it, the Indic revolution. So I come from the most ancient city in the world called Banaras, Kashi. I was born and brought up here. And my primary education, till graduation, part of the graduation was there, and then I moved out, So I always thought, that we don't have, a film which really does, justice to Kashi, to Banaras, And the most charming aspect of Banaras is the Subhe Banaras, the mornings of Banaras, which are not mornings only from the physical sense, but also from the spiritual sense, if you see. From the spiritual perspective, it is like a new awakening. It is like, experiencing these mornings are like experiencing enlightenment. It's on so many levels, not only physical, but, subtle level, on a very, very deeper level, it has a great impact on you. So that's how, we made this film Subhe Banaras, dedicated, on the mornings of Banaras, and how, the culture is so vibrant in the city, and how, there have been such great knowledge traditions. There are 16 shakhas, of Vedic traditions in this city, and which are still there, which are existing. And you have, such great people here who have lived here, who are still living here in the city. Such great gurus, such enlightened, knowledgeable people. So I thought all this should come in this film. So here is this film. which encompasses, the mornings of Banaras, the musical traditions of Banaras, in which, there's a song which I had written on the mornings of Banaras, which my wife, she has, performed, she has sung, that particular song. And also we took a song of Guru Gorakhnath Ji, and it's such a great, tradition of Bharat, the Nath Parampara, and Guru Gorakhnath Ji used to write, such beautiful songs, he used to compose them, and it was then in the parampara of the Jogis. And my dear friend Krishnakant Shukla, he learned in the Jogi tradition. And for the first time, he recorded the song of Guru Gorakhnath Ji, which is Siddh Bhajo Omkara, which is there in the film. So may I request Himanji to play, the film to Subhe Banaras?
Bhini bhini bhora bhai, bhini bhini bhora bhai, बीत गई सारी सुरमई रतियाँ, बीत गई सारी सुरमई रतियाँ, पतियन ओ सझरी
सिद्ध भजोंकार हो, सिद्ध भजोंकार अवधू काया मंजन सारजी हो, काया मंजन सारजी। सिद्ध भजोंकार अवधू काया मंजन सारजी हो, काया मंजन सारजी, काया मंजन सारजी। शिखर भीतर नाद बाजे, शिखर भीतर नाद बाजे, आत्मा दिन दैन जागे। शिखर भीतर नाद बाजे, आत्मा दिन दैन जागे। नाद सुन सुन लागी डोरी आत्मा दिन धन बौरी हो सिद्ध भजोंकार अवधू काया मंजन सारजी हो काया मंजन सारजी काया मंजन सारजी पांच पकड़ो तीन छोड़ो पांच पकड़ो तीन छोड़ो आठ लावो घाट जी पांच पकड़ो तीन छोड़ो आठ लावो घाट जी उठो हंसा पीवो पानी त्रिवेणी के घाट जी हो सिद्ध भजोंकार अवधू काया मंजन सार जी हो काया मंजन सार जी काया मंजन सार जी चेत गोरख खंड रासा चेत गोरख खंड रासा खोल कवड़ी देख आसा देख लो दीदार से जी सिद्ध भजोंकार अवधू काया मंजन सार जी हो काया मंजन सार जी 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 काया मंजन सार जी
Thank you so much. So as you saw in this film, that any film may not be only on a very grosser level, on a very physical level, but it can have, it can be on a metaphorical level as well, on various levels. It can appeal, to the audience. Like in this film, first of all, I always found, that people, even from India and from around the world, they could not understand what Kashi is, what Banaras is, So maybe they had a very fixated opinion about, Banaras, and they just, whatever they saw, they only try to, show that to the world, So they saw, obviously, I mean, maybe, things, some places are not clean, there was poverty, or, maybe things were not very nice looking, So they just prefer to focus on that. But I thought, no, there's so many beautiful aspects, which are, there's so many spiritual aspects of this city. There's so many metaphorical aspects, Like on one end, we started the film with the song Bhini Bhini Bhorvai, which is like, the mornings of Banaras, being visually, beautifully shown that what happens in the mornings of Banaras. And on the other hand, we had songs, which had deeper spiritual meaning to it, and which were telling, that what so many aspects of life that you can take inspiration from, and so much you can learn from it, and from the wisdom of the great Guru Gorakhnath Ji himself. So I thought, if we make a film, like this, which is on many levels, and prefer to show, so many beautiful aspects which are there, and avoid, which already people have been too much, they have been just showing that, such a long time. So that's how, this film was made with that perspective, and it won many international awards, at many international film festivals. And till today, they say that this film has been it has played a very major contributory role in dramatically increasing the tourism, of Banaras, because people have viewed it all around the world. And they have been fascinated, by what they saw in this film about Kashi, about Banaras. So that is the power of cinema. And I think that is how I have always believed, that how That's how, the film medium should be used in a very effective manner. And I always believe that, the relevance of Indian culture is global. So it is very important, to promote, the Indian culture and the value system around the world. And since I always say, and this is being a filmmaker, I always feel, that films can be a very effective medium in propagating and promoting, our culture around the world. And that is what I have always, loved to do. And apart from this, there are many things which, the world doesn't know about our, the contributions, as I said, to the world, about so many things which are commonly practiced around the world, but people, they don't know origin of it. So one such thing is, the names of the weekdays, which is followed around the world, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But people don't know what is the origin of this. So I made a film on the origin of weekdays. It's a short film, so that not only the Indians, they can be enlightened, their own ancient wisdom and the knowledge traditions that we had, but also, the world could acknowledge it for once, that something which they have been following has got its root and the origin in India. So I would like to request, Himani, if you can play the film number 3, The Origin of Weekdays.
The time of our life is divided into weeks, 7 days. Some named after celestial bodies, others after gods, and a very specific sequence which the whole world follows. Have you ever thought about it? Who named the days? Who arranged them in this way? Why are there only 7 days in a week? Let's check the internet. Egyptians, Babylonians, Greeks. Why not? We all have been taught how they influenced Indian astronomy. After all, the word hour comes from the Greek hora. Not really. There is no evidence for all this. Zero. Those old serious-looking dudes didn't do any of it. The West just gave them credit. We believed it without checking. The word hour comes from hora, but hora actually comes from the Sanskrit word ahoratra. There's an ancient Indian book called Surya Siddhanta, serious work on astronomy. It says, arrange the 7 grahas, the major celestial bodies visible to the naked eye, from slowest to fastest. Call it the sequence. Make a list of the hours of the day. Start assigning each hour a graha as per the sequence. When you reach the bottom, carry over to the next day. The graha that gets the first hour of the day is called the Dinpati. The deity of that graha then also becomes the deity of that day. This is how the days get their Vedic names. And notice the sequence? That's the secret of the sequence of weekdays. And the whole world follows it. But why is Mangalwar called Tuesday and not Mars Day? You see, Vedic days were named after Vedic deities. When out-of-India migrations happened, the days went too and got dubbed after the corresponding local deities. Greeks, Romans, Germanic tribes, Anglo-Saxons, and finally the English names were born. 1,000 years later, the Britishers taught it back to us. But Indian astronomy usually divides the day into 30 muhurtas. Where do the 24 hours come from? See, that's what the Greeks gave. Nope. Srimad Bhagavatam talks of ancient times when the days were divided into 24 parts, not 30. That's where the word hora gets called as the 24th part of a day, the hour. It's not just Surya Siddhanta or Bhagavatam. Aryabhatiya also talks of the same logic for naming and arranging the weekdays. It seems the Central Board of Secular Education was way too busy in teaching us Greek achievements that it glossed over such mammoth contributions of Vedic Bharat. Let it no longer be lost in narrative wars or remain unacknowledged. The world's days, their names, and their arrangement It's all given by Bharat. Our Bharat.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, sir. This film was very well received, from the audience around the world, and I was very happy to see that not only the Indians, they liked and appreciated it, and then they wrote to us. Even the foreigners, they really appreciated it, and they said, that they did not know about this fact, and they said, they really owe this to Bharat, because something, which is so widely popular and being practiced around the world has got its origin in India. So this is how, we can inspire, empower the youth in our country, when they will see that, such is our great culture and knowledge tradition. They will really get inspired. And I have always believed, that the purpose of promoting or propagating, Indian cultural heritage through films is not only just to, inspire the youth, but I think anybody in the world, if he gets, an exposure to the Indian philosophy or Indian perspective or Indian thought system or Indian knowledge systems or Indian sciences, is going to, get benefited. His life, the quality of his life is going to be definitely far, far better. He is going to be much more inspired being. The more he will get, closer to his own true self, the more inspired he would be, and the more he can do to the world. The bigger contributions he can make to the humanity, because that is what the purpose of our sciences and the knowledge system has been, to inspire, the mankind, and it has been, for the benefit of the entire humanity, of the entire world. So through films, if we can, inspire more and more people around the world, it is ultimately, for the benefit of the mankind. So that is what I have always believed in. And such great knowledge traditions we had, such great practices we had in our country. I was very fortunate to have given this opportunity to make a film on ancient India's water management and water resource system. Now, water is a major issue right now, and people are still trying to figure out, that what can be done, to do the right kind of water management, or to do the right kind of water, what we can do with the water resources, what best can be done. But if we look back on our ancient wisdom, and if we look back, on the practices which were there in ancient India, right in the beginning, we'll find that, we can learn a lot from that. So I thought, if we have to tell the world, and especially, we made it for the G20, that see, in India, it has been practiced for thousands of years. And this is what we can learn from, the ancient wisdom of this country, and from the great people, who have led this knowledge for us now. So we made a film which is called Apo Vai Amritam. So I'll just show a small excerpt, of that. Water is elixir, and how water was just not just another commodity, but, how we had a different perspective. It was like an elixir, for us. And the Indians, they believed it was something divine, and it was Amrit. That's what perspective that we had, towards water, and how we did best, with the water conservation, or for the water management, right, from thousands of years. So we made a film, on this. May I request Himani to play the last film, of this session, film 4, Water is Elixir.
पानीयं परमं लोके जीवानां जीवनं स्मृतं पानीयस्य प्रदानेन तृप्तिर्भवति पाण्डव पानीयस्य गुणा दिव्या परलोके गुणावः
Water, the essence of all life. It nourishes us, sustains us, and shapes the very fabric of our world, the foundation of all civilizations that have ever existed. Yet, in its quiet omnipotence, water often goes unnoticed until it becomes scarce. The delicate balance of our planet's water systems is at a tipping point, the cost of humanity's consumerist ways. Our best minds and technologies are frantically trying to make sense of the situation.
UN is going to hold a meeting on water.
For the consequences will be devastating. Can the same thought process that complicated things in the first place be depended upon for solutions? The arrogance of our industrialized modern society blinds us to the fact that our ancestors must have faced similar challenges for tens of thousands of years. Inspired by Bharat's ancient traditions of seeking the truth, we embark on a journey to explore the great traditions of water conservation practiced by our ancestors. For it is through this rediscovery of the past that one may find a path towards a sustainable future.
मैं तो भरू मारी सहला भरे रे मैं तो भरू मारी सहला भरे रे जल बादली रो पानी सैया गुण तो भरे जल बादली रो पानी सैया गुण तो भरे हाजिना दिया रे वीर जी खुदायो भीम तालाब जल बादली पानी सैया गुण तो भरे जल बादली पानी सैया गुण तो भरे ओ मैं तो भरू मारी सहला भरे रे मैं तो भरू मारी सहला भरे रे जल बादली पानी सैया गुण तो मरे जल बादली पानी सैया गुण तो मरे जल
Just a few hours from Gandhinagar exists one such site, the Rani Ki Vav, an exquisite stepwell constructed by Rani Udaymati, wife of 11th century Chalukya king Bhima I. Today, Rani Ki Vav is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and stands testimony to the divine marriage of utility and beauty. I am accompanied by Professor T.V. Bharat, a respected name in the field of foundational engineering.
So, Professor Bharat, first thing I would like to know from you, I've seen these beautiful stepwells all over Gujarat and Rajasthan and many other states. What was the purpose of making into such huge, beautiful architectural marvels?
This is a unique feature of ancient wisdom to build temples for Water. I think it appears that the structure is built for accessing the groundwater and also for harvesting the rainwater. The interesting aspect is, first of all, the excavation itself. It is not possible to simply excavate to whatever the depth we want.
Absolutely.
Because the soil would exert a thrust or the lateral pressure. And we require retaining walls to support these lateral pressures. Retaining walls construction has to take place from the bottom to top.
Oh my God.
So
that's a great challenge then.
Great challenge. We need to know what is the groundwater level location, groundwater source location. One possibility is that they might have excavated all around. And after that, they might have placed these stones, and then they would have started from there and backfilling the soil, and they would have constructed the whole thing.
Nowhere in world history we find such passion and reverence for a natural resource that's usually taken for granted. The modern worldview dictates that the form of something should follow its function. But water conservation structures like Rani Ki Vav couldn't disagree more. It appears as if water conservation is much more than just a social utility of the Bharatiya Drishti. Else how can it inspire such architecture, craft, songs and festivals?
Thank you so much. So that was an excerpt from the film Aapo Vai Amritam, and although they have been previewed, to the G20, but for the public release, I think most probably it should be done by the Honorable Prime Minister at the final culmination, of the G20 events. So I think these such films can serve a great purpose, and I think it is for the entire humanity, for the entire mankind, and for the entire world, for all the countries around the world. And I think it is time that we should come out of our biases in all the countries. We should forget the past, bury the past, because these are the challenges which the entire humanity is going to face in the future. The water crisis, for example, or, in the upcoming films that we are addressing, the health crisis, like we recently saw in the, the pandemic, the corona pandemic, just a couple of years back, or, the agricultural crisis towards which we are heading. Now, that's a huge, huge catastrophic crisis if we don't, start paying enough attention to it and start working in that direction in a major way. Then we are heading towards food crisis. So our, next two films of Prachyam are, on the sustainable agriculture of the Vedas. Since Vedic times, what kind of sustainable agriculture we had. And, on the great holistic healing system of Bharat, the Ayurveda, and what great contribution, the Ayurveda had, to the entire world, even to the modern medicine or to the modern surgery. We had great rishis like Sushrut or Charak or Bhagbat, who have written such great books on India's holistic healing system and on surgery as well. So, in the last pandemic, we saw that, the modern medicine, it just did not have, answers, this pandemic that they were facing. But, a lot of people in India, they got benefited, by, following, the traditional wisdom of Ayurveda. And they somehow survived through the pandemic. So who knows in the future, if God forbid we have to face such calamity, then I think it is very important to look back to our own ancient wisdom, to embrace it and to learn from it and to popularize it, because it has been for the entire mankind. So such films can be very important, to the entire world, and they can derive a lot of enlightenment, a lot of knowledge, a lot of inspiration from these. So this is what we do. This is what Prachyam stands for. This is what our Indic revolution is all about. And whoever is viewing this and whoever will view this video, I may request all of you, to subscribe to Pratyam and watch Pratyam films. And also, our OTT is going to come in the next 2 months. So they should, become subscribe to our OTT platform and enjoy watching, such films that we make and become a part of our fraternity. And at the end, there are no words enough to thank you, Ambassador Akhilesh Mishra ji, to give me this opportunity to just tell about my life and my story and my journey of cinema. And I'm sure, people would really find it interesting, and they will get inspired to, probably change their career path like me and become, filmmakers. So I owe it to you. I thank you, for giving me this chance to come on your esteemed, platform. And in this beautiful lecture series that you have, India Ireland Friendship Lecture Series, and share my experiences and my life journey. Thanks a lot.
It was a truly mesmerizing, captivating presentation. And not only you are using a very powerful medium of films to communicate, but your storytelling skills are truly outstanding. As you rightly said, the key challenge for us is to inculcate the interest, inculcate the inquisitiveness in the people of India, to learn more about our ancient heritage and develop self-pride. Because the way India is seen by outsiders is inherently dependent on how we see ourselves. Yoga, Ayurveda, or Indian culture, Indian traditions, if we start taking pride in, then the rest of the world will also follow us. I have been in foreign service for 34 years, and mostly I have spent my life abroad. So I can tell you with my personal experience that the Greek, the Roman, the Egyptian, their cultures are respected because they themselves attach highest importance to it. And we in India have been systematically brainwashed to undermine our own ethos. And thanks to Prime Minister Modi ji, now there's a spirit of reawakening to the wealth, the treasure that we have inherited, and the value of what we have. And if we start within India, start a grassroots level campaign to absorb, learn more, share more, then it will change us, and also it will change the perception of India, Indian culture, and heritage. So to end, I can only remind ourselves collectively about the very profound message which Honorable Prime Minister Modi gave during the crisis period of Corona. He told us about being vocal for local, with the global vision, global mindset. So in the field of culture and the promotion of Indian knowledge systems, the focus has to be first inwards, mobilizing the people of India in that cause, national mission. And then everything else will follow, not other way around, not global promotion first and then prematurely rushing to the rest of the world without doing the homework within. Once again, your work is truly inspiring. In Sanskrit, there is a Bhagavad Gita, there is a saying, Yad yad acharati shrestha tattad eva itaro janah sa yad pramanam kurute lokah tad anuvartate. So your work is truly inspiring. Your narrative power is truly amazing. You are inspiring not only the youngsters, but also oldsters like me. I wish and you have inspired us. Let me also do more research and be your at least moral supporter.
Thank you so much. It's all Guru Kripa. I always, owe to my gurus, the great gurus, who have guided my steps, And together, if you can do anything for the Indo-Ireland cultural ties, you please let me know. We are always there in my Pratyam.
Hema ji deals with cultural affairs, and she maintains very extensive contacts with the Indian diaspora here. So we are going to think about how do we disseminate your very powerful story. Your presentations, your audiovisual content is really very appropriate, and it should be disseminated within our Irish community and among Indian diaspora here as widely as possible. And probably the younger generation, the children who don't know, for them it's a great primer.
Sure. You please let me know if required. I can come there also. We can have premiere of some of the films there. Followed by question and answers. We can do that.
Welcoming you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar.